Oh, good day to you, dear. What brings you to my little patch of greenery this morning? I mean, not for nothing, but I thought we were going to meet up for lunch. Not so soon after breakfast. Though, if you are offering a second breakfast, who would I be to turn you down? Gardening's actually pretty hard work once you really get your back into it. I was just about to give up on the whole idea when, well, you showed up. I know. I wax so poetically about how the world will shrivel and die underneath my little rat-like hands as I con the earth away from its riches, while you forged with such courage and strength the other day during our picnic. I can only assume you love me for my silver tongue above all else, considering how unlikely it is for us to encounter any other kinds of riches during our time in the valley. But I did get to thinking, who's to say that I can't do both? Be both. Be a horrible little thief and a horrible little craftsman. I know that it isn't the most divine of thoughts, but I guess it comes down to the fact that I admire so much about you. Think of this as my way of reaching out to greatness, no matter how pitiful my attempts to imitate the original really are. I want to have something to be passionate about. I really, really do. The same way you're passionate about your baking. My interests are fleeting after all. The town's library only has so many books, and there are only so many places I can forage before I take more than one area I can really give, but your passion for baking springs endlessly from you. As long as you can bake, you will. Not just for sustenance or survival or to sell, but because you truly enjoy the process of doing so, and would proudly continue to do it even if you didn't need to do it, to almost an excess in order to survive. I understand where you come from in all of this. I, too, am passionate about bread, and all the love that goes into intricate rituals to create it. But I need to find something of my own that'll keep my horrible little mind occupied with its own little intricacies and neuroses, for fear that they may consume my entirety. Well, naturally, no matter what I say or what I do, I'll always be a horrible little something, and I'd like to keep it that way. It makes the world so much more exciting that way. Idylity scares me in its own way, but it compels me greatly. Well, I suppose if you're here early, we could always go strawberry picking now. I mean, who's to say we have to do it afternoon? We're masters of our own destiny today. Besides, I swear, if I have to scare another bird away from my sad little patch of dirt, I'll rip the seeds out of the ground and hand feed them to the birds myself. I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand the appeal of gardening and the appeal of the process of creation, but the fact that it's a process is really what gets to me. I am not a patient person. I don't like it when things take too long. I doubt anybody does, but I can never gauge what a normal person might even think of as too long of a time. Stealing is just so much easier. I wouldn't even say it's less rewarding by any margin, but I feel like I'd have to give this a try before I say I'm not really capable of such a thing. I don't know. A garden feels too much like settling down, committing to a town, a community, a place, and I know that beyond these hills and valleys and grassy knolls there are only more hills and valleys and grassy knolls to be seen. And the thing is, even as I yearn for space and distance and something more to truly be out there. It's not like I'm distinctly unhappy here. I love this town. I love the valley and its hills and its rivers and its grassy knolls. I love the particular kind of honey the bees make, and the way the river water tastes like the overflowing idea of warmth and light. And of course, I love you. And I love your company. And yet, I feel like I must wander. I've never really felt like this before. It's not I could ever really wander. I mean, that would mean leaving you behind. I couldn't ask you to wander with me. You don't possess the same lust as I do to vanish into this great big world without a trace. I could not ask you to under these circumstances. But I can't help but wonder if your heart is big enough to sustain any distance, even one so potentially vast, so long as I am able to return during the year's kindest seasons. You never told me this whole creation business was so mentally taxing, though I suppose I never asked. This might be me on the grand scheme of things. Do you ever have to wonder if it's just the very concept of making bread or raspberry crowns or anything of that ilk is irreversibly giving you interconnecting roots with the entire region? Ones that may be impossible to dig up? I guess that's my feeling on this whole garden business, but maybe that isn't a good enough metaphor for whatever ails you. I suppose as long as you have the ingredients, you can always bake no matter where you are, but it's not like I can carry my garden with me wherever I wish to wander. Of course, maybe I just really don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe this isn't the route I should go for my creative development if such an idea fills me with such terror. Or maybe I just need a little help.